Hello, I am Dan Brown, co-director of Educators Rising. I am delighted to welcome you to the 2017-2018 Educators Rising National Student Officer Candidate Hangout. With me are our three fantastic Tamir Harper from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Tamir, wave. Everyone see where you are. We've got Lennon Audrain from Phoenix, Arizona. And we've got Abigael Dillon from Lexington, Texas. I'm going to ask them a series of questions and they'll all get a chance to share. So without further ado, this first question goes to Abby, and then we'll hear from Lennon and Tamir. Of all of the career choices that are out there for you, Abby, what appeals to you about being an educator?
I think it's the ability to both work with other people and make such a significant change on the future. There's no limits to what you can do as a teacher with the amount of impact you can have on the future. Every student that comes through your classroom is a way that you're changing the world.
Thanks. Lennon, what appeals to you about being an educator?
To me, and once again, thank you for hosting this hangout. I think it's great to finally meet all of you guys virtually. To me, appealing as an educator, I think my mom coming from Thailand and getting a degree in education, and my dad being a teacher now, it's just always flown through my blood. Really, as Abby said it, the impact that you can make each and every day on your students, but as a person, I think it's really fulfilling. It's something that where you are totally giving of yourself to better someone else, and I think at the end of the day, that's what we are all striving to do in this world, and education is the key to that for me.
Thanks, Lennon. Tamir, what appeals to you about being an educator?
And thank you again for hosting the debate or the conversation. One, it's just seeing the change that you can see throughout the community that you're working in. The students going home, learning something new and able to teach their siblings or their nieces and nephews, but also that you're cultivating the future leaders. You're bringing them out and allowing them to show their talent. But most importantly, as a Black male, I had an African-American male teacher until high school. So being an will be able to change, hopefully, a life of someone else. So maybe I can mentor and impact another student's life is why I choose to be a teacher.
Thanks, Tamir. And Tamir, we'll go to you first with this next question, and we'll go back down the line, Lennon and Abby, and then we'll mix it up after that. But there are about 30,000 members of Educators Rising, almost all students, a good number of whom have always dreamed of being teachers, but many are just trying it out, just kind of exploring. And there's a lot of young people out there who may not have always been dreaming of teaching, but they may be open to it. They may be open to exploring it through Educators Rising. And I'm interested to hear from you, what's your message to teenagers and students who might be interested in teaching? What would you say to them?
Being a teacher can change one's life. As I stated at the beginning, it can cultivate future leaders. My dream was not always to become an educator. I explored different many options, from FBI agent to being a doctor to a nurse practitioner. But teaching is one that's been sitting with me for a while. But just know it's something that can change a student life, and you're giving directly back to a community. And it's a job that none can do. That just because you're teaching doesn't mean one thing. You're doing a lot of things. You're doing a lot of things at once and changing a student's life.
Thanks, Tamir. Lennon, what's your message to a teenager that might be open to teaching?
You know, one of my friends at school the other day was just talking to me about how he's switching his major to secondary Spanish, which I thought was amazing. It's very rare that you find kids that are interested in foreign languages, and I'm a big foreign language fan. But my message to him, when I talked a lot with him one-on-one just about what opportunities are available in teaching, I think it was a lot of professional growth. And we talk a lot about impact, but there's always an opportunity to become better as a teacher. Each and every day you have the opportunity to grow, implement a new practice, and you learn something new each and every day from your students. That is something that not every career has the opportunity to do, and especially taking in the diversity of your classroom and letting it impact your own life, but letting it impact your practice as well, is something that not every career has. And so when I have those conversations, I really like to emphasize the fact that there is room for growth. You get better as a teacher each day, and as each day you grow, each day you get better and impact someone else's life.
Thanks, Lennon. Abby, how about your message to a teenager that might be interested in exploring teaching?
I think that it's important for teenagers to look at every aspect of education, not just the role of teaching, because every aspect, like administration and support services, plays an important role in changing the future. And I think that a lot of teenagers just look at education as like elementary education and basically what they see as babysitting children all day. But there's so much more that they don't see, where they can do what they want, like be sort of in an accounting role in a school and change the future of the world every day.
Great point. For this next question, Lennon, I want to go to you first and pick up on something you said about the opportunity to become better. And then we'll go to Abby and then Tamir. Absolutely. In teaching and being an educator, you get the opportunity to become better. The 7th Educators Rising Standard is engaging in reflective practice, which is all about getting better. Could you speak a little bit about your personal experiences? What do you do to get better as a leader, as an individual, as a student? What do you do to get better at things?
Absolutely. I think one of the most essential aspects is being open to growth. So when we talk about teaching as this profession, where we really want to take what walks into the classroom, change it, and make it a great citizen, make it someone that's going to help impact the future, we really ought to examine how we ourselves are modeling that. And modeling is, one of the most essential practices in teaching. That was probably the first thing that we saw as a kid, the teacher modeling, the math problem on the board. As a leader, as a teacher, the most reflective practice that I have is being open to growth, open to student voice and their feedback on how my teaching practice is, what I could add to it, being open to my administrator feedback, cooperative teacher feedback, and sitting down and looking at what I did great each day and what I could do better each day as. And when I was doing my practicum when I was getting my associate's degree in education, it was really a lot of sitting down and, well, I did this today and that was a great practice, and research is proving that, but I did this kind of okay. What can I do tomorrow to make up for that, or to help support the scaffolding process of learning and helping to engage every student in the classroom?
Thanks, Lennon. Abby, did I say you were next?
Yes.
I think so. Okay, yep, you're up, Abby.
So whenever I want to get better at something, I try to listen as much as possible and take as much feedback in from those who are around me, who are more knowledgeable in that area or just have words of wisdom for me. When I was a state officer during the state conference, there was a lot going on, and there was a lot of voices in my ear telling me what to do, but someone that I knew that I could listen to and learn from and grow with was my teacher leader, Miss Owen. She has helped me throughout the years and just helped me grow as a teacher and a person. But she taught me to listen, and so I'd be walking around, she'd be like, hey, do this just a little bit different, and I would do it, and people would go to her and tell her what a great job I was doing, and I don't think I'd be doing such a great job if I hadn't have listened to her and paid attention to the wisdom that she was giving me.
Thanks, great. Tamir, what do you do to make a point of getting better and improving?
Going to Science Leadership Academy, one of our core values is reflection. So at the end of each day, at the end of each meeting and presentation, I always reflect on what went well, what went bad, what went okay, and always what can be improved. That's one way that I think everyone, even if it's not in the field of education, can improve their reflecting on how that day went, but also accepting feedback from, if it's in education, the students, your administrator, your fellow teachers, or if it's not in education, anyone that's in that room. And always enter different rooms. So you don't want to be around the same people. You want to be around different people so that they can give you the same, different feedback, which I try to do as much as possible.
Thanks, Tamir. For this one, we'll go Abby, Tamir, Lennon. Now, you guys have boldly stepped up to run for national office. This is a national leadership position. Share a story of a leadership success that you've had that you think sets you up well to be a national leader for Educators Rising. Abby, you're up first.
So to clarify, you want what leadership, like role, or just like one specific situation?
Any experience you've had as engaging in leadership, it could be as a member of Educators Rising, it could be in some other aspect of your life, where you felt like you achieved a success as a leader in a way that you'll be able to really build on and will help you be successful in terms of your skills as a national leader of Educators Rising. Does that help?
Yeah. So I think going back again to when I was a state officer last year, just specifically at the state conference, I made a point to go around and like talk to everybody and listen to like how the conference was going and and just like learning how their experience was with it and seeing what we could do different or what I could advise the new officers to do different to improve the conference and like encourage these rising educators to keep coming back and like engage. And I think that's one thing that a lot of leaders like struggle with, is just getting the feedback and listening to what could be better instead of just trying to come up with their own ideas. Because I mean, everybody around us has great ideas on how to be innovative and improve ourselves. We just have to listen and hear it.
Thanks, Abby. We will go to Tamir, a leadership success that you've had.
So I wasn't as lucky to be a national or a state officer for Educators Rising because Pennsylvania does not have a chapter currently, but we're working on it. But in the city of Philadelphia Youth Commission, which advocates for youth throughout the whole city, and I was appointed by a council person. And as a first year wanting to be chairman of the education committee. It was a difficult task. We were a few years old commission, 8 to 10 out of the 21 commissioners needed. So I went in working with that committee to reform it and try to bring more voice to it and work around policy. And then I was elected for my second term as vice chair, and this term as chair. So we went from 8 to 10 commissioners to about 13 commissioners to now about 18 out of the 21 commissioners. But I can only work with our director to do that if I was open to that each commissioner from the past and current gives the executive board, which we call the chair, vice chair, and secretary. And we recruited more by listening to their feedback and creating a plan with them as commissioners to work in the community to recruit more.
Terrific. Thank you, Tamir. Lennon, how about a leadership success that you've had?
Happy to share one. This past year, I've had the great opportunity to serve as the state president of Educators Rising Arizona. And so we conduct chapter visits throughout the year, starting in August. And I think one of the best, and one of the things that I always start out with in a chapter visit is asking the question, you know, how many of you want to be teachers in here, and what's one reason that you want to be a teacher? And as Abby mentioned, listening is just a big part of engaging and building relationships. And so I think one leadership success skill that I've had and that I've used is really building and listening to those stories, because everyone has a story. You know, ideas, as some people put it, are the currency of the 21st century, but stories are things that will never change, and they're things that really tell you about a person. And so going around in Arizona and listening to all the different stories about why they wanted to be a teacher. When I went to Nebraska to keynote the Educators Rising Nebraska conference, listening to all of their stories and how they were similar and very different to Arizona's really helped me to not only solidify my calling, but to help recognize that there is so much more that as educators we can all do to help support each other.
Thank you, Lennon. We really need change in education, but people disagree on what change is warranted. And we need young people and student voices to be really leading the change. And that's what Educators Rising can do. So I'm interested to hear from you. We'll go to Tamir and then Lennon and then Abby. What change do you want to see most in education? What is most important from your point of view as a rising educator, as a rising leader, change that we need to make in education in America? Tamir, you're up first.
So if anyone, well, if you know me personally or heard me speak, I've always spoken about teacher diversity, because currently in the United States, only 2% of the nation's public school teachers are African-American males, which is a problem when most of our students are minority, not just males, but we have pretty much a crisis with not having enough diverse teachers. So something I wish to see, and I think Educators Rising can definitely assist with ensuring that we recruit more people of color to become educators, is the rise of diverse teachers, because we have teacher shortages, but we also have a shortage of diverse teachers. So I think that's the main issue that I see that needs to be addressed, because teacher diversity works hand in hand with the school to prison pipeline. Many of our Black male teachers are not in the classroom. They're sometimes the disciplinarians, but also those African-American students do not have a mentor, someone to look up to. So that can also fix this teacher shortage, and again, the school to prison pipeline.
Thank you, Tamir. Lennon, what change do you want to see in education?
Three things. One, teacher preparation, which Educators Rising is already on the rise doing. An increase in early childhood funding and teacher preparation. So we see that by the age of 3, students and children who come from a lower income area know about 30 million words fewer than their counterparts, which sets them back in literacy, their academic success, and even their life success. You know, if you don't have as strong a vocabulary as someone else, it can really set you back. And of course, the last thing, student voice, which I've always been an advocate for. So tying all three of those together, you know, implementing more choice and more social interaction. Fern and Vygotsky would both support this, those educational theorists, making sure that our early childhood education teachers are prepared, they're well equipped, walking into the classroom with those strategies, that pedagogy that is absolutely critical at that age to set all their students up for success. And then once again, making sure that our teachers are all prepared and understand that to have great education, we have to have great teachers.
Thank you, Lennon. Abby, what's the change you want to see in education?
Well, I would like to see more CTE courses and classes being offered at more schools. A lot of people don't realize how many options that they have when they're in high school, like starting out high school or graduating high school. And so they just go into whatever they hear the most about. And that, I feel, contributes to the shortages going around in different career fields like teaching. Tamir, I think in one of his candidate papers or something, said that we're encouraged to be doctors and lawyers and all these highly educated career paths because that's what makes the money. But sometimes that's not what's best for students and for the future of America and the future of the world. We need to be more diverse in what we're offering students and what we're offering the future.
Wonderful, thanks. Last question. Each of you have stepped up to lead. You're asking your fellow rising educators from across the country to vote for you when we have our national through May 5th. Yours to make a kind of closing statement to your fellow members about why you feel you would be as an Educators Rising National Student Officer. For this, we'll go Lennon, and then Abby, and then Tamir.
So, Educators Rising members, I would just like to thank you first off for taking the time to really look at the future of education and not to just rely on the three of us to as images of leadership within rising education, but as each one of you is a rising educator, take up leadership roles within your own communities. As the state president, as I've served, now this is my second year as a state officer, and having completed an associate's degree in education, I understand the critical need for leadership within education that is diverse, that is interactive, and that really helps to solidify passions for students starting in high school. And you all can truly be that change. As I said in my closing speech at the Educators Rising National Conference last year in Boston, Educators Rising members, be radical, be different, and be the change. Thank you.
Thank you, Lennon. Abby.
Hey, y'all. So I think that I think that together we can change the future, as all educators do. And I think that starts out in high school by getting your voice out there and being vocal and not being afraid to speak up when you don't agree with something or when you think that you could add to the conversations around you. Don't be afraid to tell your teacher that something's not working or that you think this would be a better idea if you actually think that works. I would try as a national officer to encourage y'all to continue pushing for your voice to be heard and for all of our youth voices to be heard at a national level among teachers when your voice you feel can't be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Tamir.
So again, thank you guys for watching, and Educators Rising national team for hosting the debate. I don't have all the answers to everything as a leader. We try to, or leaders sometimes try to say we have the answers to lead or reform an organization. But I think one of the first qualities of a leader is to listen. And I want to listen and try to at least talk to as many members as possible of Educators Rising to see what they want to see in the future, but to also ask them, how can we get more students to sign up for Educators Rising? Because in Pennsylvania, we don't have a strong enough base. So I want to talk to the students in Pennsylvania, but the students in Arizona, and that has a great base already, to see how we can build a base. But also I want to see how we can grow and how I can serve you guys, because you guys aren't serving me, I'm serving elected. And I want to just end with a quote that President Barack Obama always stated: change will not the person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. So it's our time now to fight and rebel and fix the system that's been broken for some time now.
Thank you so much. I want to thank all three of you, your three candidates for Educators Rising National Student Officer for 2017-2018, Tamir Harper, Lennon Audrain, and Abigael Dillon. You will be able to, student members of Educators Rising will be able to vote for 2 of these candidates to assume national office for the 17-18 school year. That election is happening April 26th through May 5th. Check your email for the instructions and the code and the link to go vote online. Also, check out the EdRising Virtual Campus. All 3 of these exceptional rising educators have put a lot of work into making individual candidate videos and have written a handful of essays about their beliefs and their background, all of which are really worth checking out in the EdRising Virtual Campus. So thank you very much all, great work, and there is power in teaching.